What do you think? Will it work?
It's done.
Okay,
This
great.
way,
Welcome everybody to our regular city council meeting this March 18th, 2025. We'd like to welcome all in the audience today with us and those online viewing this evening. Thanks for taking some time out, and we sure appreciate your interest in our council meetings. We did start tonight's meeting with a work session at 5 o'clock talking about budget items. Talked specifically tonight about Weber County Sheriff's Office contract and a few discussions there. So we're getting ready for the budget and should have that ready by the end of June. We'll start tonight's meeting with a roll call. Amy? Here.
Here. Councilmember Zishan.
Here.
Councilmember Parkinson. Here. Councilmember West.
Here.
Councilmember Thomas.
Here. All right, we're all here. Thank you, council, for being present tonight. Item number 3 is our Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all rise and repeat the pledge with me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for that Pledge of Allegiance. I sure appreciate that. And I again welcome all of you to our council meeting tonight. Let's get going on the agenda. Item number 5, our consent items, 5.1, approval of tonight's agenda and approval of March 4th, 2025 council meeting. Must have been yours, Jeff. Don't touch it.
I actually have something on the minutes. Councilmember Parkinson sent me a note. There's that one line in the work session that I didn't finish. So
Okay.
I finished that up. It didn't really change anything on the content. That sentence, and that has been changed.
Okay, so we'll put that change in there if that's okay with everybody. All right, and we okay on tonight's agenda? Any changes to tonight's agenda? Yep. All right, anyone opposed to approving that, those 2 items? We'll approve those by general consent. Thank you very much. Let's move on to item number 6, citizen comment. I know we have some citizen comments tonight. We welcome them with us. Please take 3 minutes. We'll even let you have more than 3 minutes if you need it. But state your name and what you're doing here.
I told them we could split it up in 3, 6, 9 minutes. So
Oh, geez.
thank you. First of all, thank you for not canceling your meeting like a responsible city, because the other cities around you have all canceled their meetings tonight.
What?
I'm grateful you went to City Did, so I'm able to come speak with you guys here tonight. So
Good.
that worked out well. My name is Christy Bell. I live down in Uinta City, but today my capacity is the coordinator for the Bonneville Communities That Care Coalition. That's not just a line item on your budget every year. We are so much more. And I brought 2 of the students who attend Bonneville right now, and they're in our youth work group. So what the coalition is, really quickly in 3 minutes, is we learned from years and years of studying that the old drug prevention strategies that were used, like just say no, this is your brain on drugs, those actually did in the DARE program, those did more damage than they did good for us. So through lots of evidence-based programming, they've identified evidence-based practices that are shown to work. And the one that Weber Human Services identified for us is the Communities That Care, which is a more individualized approach. So we are the Bonneville Cone. So we work on problems that are unique to the Bonneville Cone area and what that looks like for us. And so Bonneville has different risk factors than a rural school down in Sanpete County. So that's what we do. We work on the SHARP surveys that each of the students do. We take that data and we compile that with evidence-based practices that will work and attack our particular risk factors in our area. And then also, we also work to bolster the protective factors in this area. So things that we've been doing, I'll let them take over some of the stuff that they've been doing, but one of the big reasons I wanted to come here tonight is every year we do a 5K, the Path to Prevention, 5K and half marathon. And each of the partner cities, which are our Cone area, Riverdale, you guys, Uinta City and South Ogden, we all partner together. Mayor is very, participates really well. He has his own little jacket and he has little signs and he helps light the way. So we wanted to thank you guys for the participation and the support that you guys give the Bonneville Communities That Care Coalition each year. will you hand me that right there? I brought you something to put on the wall. I think you've had some in the past. Leanne Pove, if you remember her, she was the previous coordinator and would bring around some of these medals that we gave out. So I'll leave this with you guys as a thank you for all that you've done for us. And there was something else I wanted to hit, and I'm trying to remember, but I'm sure my 3 minutes are up by now. And you would much rather hear from these guys anyways. These are some of our wonderful members. Brandon is a senior this year. He's off to do great things. And then Taven is a junior. He's also our chair, and he's going to stick around for another year. Also going to do wonderful things with them involved. So bring one of you guys up.
Hi, my name is Brandon Moreno, and as Christy said, I'm a senior at Bonneville High School, and I've really enjoyed being able to work within Bonneville Communities That Care. I joined last year, and it was after because of one of my friends in student government. She was the chair last year, and I really loved that Bonneville Communities That Care was doing something within the community. And, I was able to get my friends to sign a dark fee pledge, and then I was able to educate third grade classes at an assembly. And it was overall just an incredible experience to be able to actually do something impactful in my community. And but some of the things that we've done this year specifically, Taven and I had the opportunity to go speak with our state legislators during this legislative session with Representative Paul, Colford, and Senator Milner. And it was just an absolutely incredible experience. I was able really to see the power that a constituent has with the representative, because that is what your representative is meant to do for you, represent your interests. And I was able to take part in that, and it's a skill that I'll continue using throughout the rest of my life. And we also attended CADCA this year, which is an annual conference in Washington, D.C., and we attended some classes and had the opportunity to speak with Representative Moore and Senator Curtis. And, it was, I got a little bit of stage fright talking to Senator Curtis, but I think that experience really taught me to be prepared. I was very unprepared when I was speaking with him, and I do think I forgot some key things. But now whenever I speak with a representative or anyone that's interested, I know what I'm talking about. And, saying these little elevator speeches is being ready for, any opportunities to say something for issues that you care about. And attending classes in CADCA, I was also able to learn about nuances in the opioid epidemic and learn how to tackle AI issues within our community, like addictive algorithms within our social media and how that affects children. And it opened my eyes to so many more issues that really need fixing. And it's something that I hope to continue advocating for when I'm in college. And well, thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you. Well done. Well done.
Hello, everybody. I'm Taven Christensen. As Christy said, I am the chair of the youth group. First off, it's an absolute pleasure to be here in front of you all tonight. Doing all these amazing things, going out and helping kids, letting them know that they're not alone with fighting addiction, whether it be vapes or any sort of drug or the opioid crisis. Our trip out to DC, it really truly was amazing. It was an absolute blast getting to see all the sites, learning new things. We got to meet a whole bunch of new people. The friendships that we have made along the way with this youth group has been absolutely amazing. Our drug-free pledges are some of my favorite things to look forward to, along with our environmental scans. Also me personally, working with the Weber Morgan Health Department on doing underage tobacco operations. It's such a blast going out and meeting officers and going out and doing good and making sure we keep our kids safe. We also went to Capitol Hill, and we were able to advocate for and support our legislatures and our representatives to make sure that they keep the ban on our flavored e-cigs and vapes, because every day they get these messages, and it's just like these vape companies are so consistent on trying to get their flavors back so they can sell to these young kids so they can get them hooked for life. That trip out there, it was inspiring. Once again, get to learn more about our legislatures, our representatives, the bills. I've learned so much in this youth group. And I've gotten to do some really fun things that I never thought I would have been able to do. Christy has been an amazing coordinator this year. We also have a whole bunch of other youth group members that weren't able to make it here tonight, but they are all very awesome. We also have another youth group leader. Her name is Stephanie. Just a shout out to her because she, when Christy's not there, Stephanie is, because Christy's a very busy person, but Stephanie has always had our back as well. This youth group is amazing, and we'd like to thank you guys. And well, they were all of the other cities sounds like they were, I just didn't have their meetings, but thank you for supporting us and all the other mayors and cities as well. It means the world to us, and it's been an absolute blast. And we hope to keep doing good and reaching out to people. And we've been reaching out to our younger audiences in the junior highs and doing drug-free pledges there and starting there. And it has helped so much. They get so excited and get so pumped and are ready to go out there and do good in the world and support this crisis that we're in. But thank you all. It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Anything else, Christy? Anything else? Christy is this is
No.
Christy's first year.
This is, yes.
And I can't believe how good she's done.
I've
Right?
sat on the board for 7 years as a key leader,
Yeah.
and then jumped over into the coordinator position. And it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I think it's needed, it's necessary, and the skills that the youth are receiving are so invaluable. And not only have we had it at Bonneville High School, but we've started taking it upstream to the junior highs. And so now South Ogden has a membership of 17, but we've capped it at 17. We have a waiting list of 9, and TH Bell, we've started out as well. So we've brought it upstream, and also our our elementary schools, we are providing books. There's a reading program that we are doing with each of the elementary schools, where each of the schools will be receiving a wonder book, because it's shown that literacy is directly tied to life skills and abilities to cope and drug problems down the future. So if you can tackle literacy and spending time together as families, that only bolsters their protective factors and reduces their risk factors. So thank you. And what Taven was alluding to is there were two bills in the legislature this season that were really detrimental to the youth in our area. The one was the possible overturning of the flavored vapes, and then also the ominous alcohol bill, which brought alcohol sales closer to schools and places that would endanger children. Both of those, after a lot of lobbying with our legislatures and through emails that people sent from you guys as well, we were able to keep those away from you and not overturn. So those were two major, huge successes. So thank you for that. We appreciate everything, and that's it. Would it be okay if they got a picture? They have college applications coming up soon.
Yeah.
Would that be okay?
Sure. Do whatever we need,
Okay.
whatever we need to do.
Then we'll get out of your hair.
Okay. You just want to send them up here? Stand up here. Can you get us all in there?
Come stand on both sides of the main.
Oh, yeah, stand up on top up here. Up here.
We can
Yeah, and everybody kind of slide in.
Oh, sorry. Chris, do you want to be in that? I can
Oh,
take it.
yeah, I'll take that. How's that? Come here, the rest of you. You're all gonna be- you're all gonna be-
Just gonna take a whole bunch, so Milet will. See if I can get.
Smile.
Don't do additional flash, I'm doing it with my hair.
I see that. Okay, and I'm gonna do the high angle. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Okay, I think.
Crazy
faces.
Crazy faces? No, oh, thanks you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Great job. Great job. Great job.
Yes.
Great job. Thanks for your.
I guess you can always make.
Zoom in,
Yeah.
for sure.
So you need to.
Which one?
Where I'm working. Reaching out. The rest are. Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Okay. No. Thank you, guys.
Oh. Oh, look at that. We got bribes too. Oh, okay. $47 and
use that.
50 cents.
One's a mini.
Hey, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christy.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate you.
See ya.
Okay, any other public comments? Public comments? None? No? Okay. We'll move on then to item number 7, new business. Huh?
No motion?
No, that wasn't. business.
Oh.
No, we're
that's
just
what I-
still on citizen comments.
No.
We're gonna do a motion right here. New business, item 7.1, discussion dash motion. Approval of donation to the Bonneville PTSA for the celebration party for the 2025 graduating class. Tom?
Okay. Each year, the Bonneville High approaches us to get a little help with their graduating class activity. And we had a presentation from some of their officers. And we're bringing that back to you in response to their request and looking to you to see if you would like to help sponsor them again this year at $500. There was a discussion on helping with the Easter activity, and we have delivered the eggs and candy to them to stuff, prepare, and to get ready for the great event. So they're also, if you will, fulfilling their end of the agreement while we help donate to their activity.
Yep, they did a great job. They reached out to us and said, when are we doing? When are we helping? So I think that was a couple weeks ago, so they're well underway doing that. So great bunch of kids over there at Bonneville High School, and they can read. They are a bunch of great kids, but that program that Chris was talking about, taking the CTC or the community care into the junior high, that's going to be huge. I think we're going to catch them young, and then they'll be more excited when they get to high school. So that's good. That was a great idea.
That
Never
was
thought of that. Good move right there. But good young men right there, man. Awesome. Okay, any discussion on that donation to the graduating class for their celebration?
I'd entertain motion.
Okay,
Second, I'll make that motion.
okay,
Make that donation. We've got a second over here.
we have a second. Okay, we have a motion and a second for donation. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you very much. Move on to item 7.2. We have a discussion, possible / action, discussion on an allowance of conditional use permits for conversion of single family to multifamily homes. So looks like we have a special guest with
We
us tonight.
do. Tonight we have our
Special as
building
they come.
official, community development person, and extraordinaire member of our team, Tyler. The reason this is in front of you now is we have been able to go through the business licensing process and realize that maybe there's an opportunity to look at if there are appropriate ways to allow some upstairs, downstairs duplexes. Right now, those properties who have up, down, are you going to cover this?
You're doing great.
Okay. For those properties that have upstairs, downstairs, we're having them have their leases expire, and they are only being licensed as a single unit. What we're curious tonight is Tyler's going to provide information on what it may look like if you feel like it would be appropriate to take this to Planning Commission for their consideration and their guidance on what legislation we would do to allow that kind of a use in a conditional use. So rather than going directly to the Planning Commission, which this kind of direction would come from, we wanted to get your input on it first, and with the action item on this to direct staff to or not to move forward with any further discussion. kind of a discussion is also part of, no matter what direction it goes, it's part of our moderate income housing and the requirement to consider options. And so this is part of that consideration as well. So without any further ado, I yield the rest of my time mostly to Tyler.
Yes, thank you for having me tonight. I'm sure you guys are excited to talk about housing. It is a crisis in our state, and I'll go in depth a little bit on the research. I don't know if you remember, but in about almost nearly a year ago, we went through basically Housing 101 and went through slides that kind of explain what the difference between a townhome is and a single family dwelling and an accessory dwelling, and tried to kind of help you understand the differences of that. And at that meeting that night, you gave us direction to do an audit on the current status of business licenses, rental licenses, and on what we, and trying to find out how many of them are illegal. And now I want to remind you all real quick, the difference between what an accessory dwelling is and what we allow in our code right now and what I'm proposing as a viable option in the future. An accessory dwelling is internal into the home. And the really key part to this and what legislation in our state has actually written building code and amended codes is that it's owner occupied. So I think all of us can imagine in the past having like the mother-in-law apartment. The state of Utah has made that to where cities have to do it. And so we implemented a code 3 years ago, I think, to be able to do accessory dwelling units and have them be acceptable with a license if it's owner occupied. So you can imagine in the state of Utah, that was like open the floodgates and now I can have a basement apartment and have an upstairs. And then I'm going to move out of that house because now it's an investment property. And now I have 2 up and down rentals. And that's the issue that we figured out in the audit, is that we have a lot of those. We have Heidi, by the way, is fantastic, the business license official. If you ever have questions or research, she's really good at finding that. Right now, we have a list, she didn't put the number on this, but just, you can see on the whole page. Oh, yes, she did. It's on the backside. 72 that are legal, non-conforming. And to remind you what that means, it means that it's grandfathered in for a myriad of reasons. Specifically, I can tell you, because I just did this one today, the one on here at 1036 is allowed because he has his daughter lives in the home. So owner occupied. Now he had to prove that with showing that she lives there and that she has friends in the basement. That's where that one was illegal, non-conforming, and that's up to the zoning administrator to decide if that's acceptable or not. So, but we have 72 in the city right now that are allowed based off of previous approvals, or that they have 2 meters, or they have, you know, they have 2 gas lines, or, you know, there's some that have 2 mailboxes and the county actually recognizes them as a duplex, even though they're not. Those are really hard for us to go to a legal situation and say, you can't have that. So 72, we have, through our audit, we denied, and Tom talked about that just a little bit, but we denied 23. So these ones were ones that people assumed were acceptable, and they have yet to be able to prove to zoning administrator, business license official what or why they are, based off of them just assuming they are because their real estate agent told them they are. That's what we get.
Now, is that 23 on the list of 72?
No, this is separate.
Okay.
72 is good ones, 23, and then
And 23 are what?
These
Illegal.
These were actually, so these would be
What would you call them?
people that were forthcoming with their application,
Okay.
saying what they do. And then us saying this is not recognized.
But
This
they're
is a single
non-conforming.
family dwelling.
They're
Yep.
not legal, they're non-conforming,
They're illegal, non-conforming.
illegal, non-conforming.
Do you know if any of them, they just applied for it? Do you have any clue if any of them are renting?
Yeah, every one of them. Yep. So, and they were very, very honest. Now, this list is a very live document. This is her guess of properties that didn't tell us in an application that they're renting. But we suspect, based off of researching the properties, that they are doing an up and down apartment. So just this is very much not super accurate. This is just a kind of throwing it out there that I'm trying to say, like, we do know of some, but we don't know of all of them. We have no idea.
How many are on there?
21. Where they actually like have unit A and B, and I mean, pretty obvious, but we don't get an application from them. So, okay, so going through this list, as you can see from that point of view, I think there's not as many units as I thought there was gonna be. But I think based off of that, I think that that's one of the big reasons why we want to have a discussion on this, is because I think that it's very possible that we could implement some ordinances, laws that would allow these to be acceptable if they fall into the right guidelines of the building code that's required. So I want to go through this quickly and try to help you understand what requirements there are in the building code. So just quick definition sake, single family unit. And then they have to have what you can imagine, has to have a bathroom, kitchen. It has to be meet building code for a residential unit. And the only difference between that and the 2-family dwelling is that you have it in one house, and they have an apartment up and an apartment down, or apartment side to side or above. Doesn't have to be, usually ours are basements as they fall in. But you'll see that each one of those has they have to have 2 kitchens, and they have to have 2 furnaces. I'll get into what the 2 things that.
Okay.
So just a couple pictures of single family dwellings. I think that's pretty easy to understand. And then 2-family dwellings, put a couple different pictures on here just so you kind of have an idea. Like the top picture on the left side is showing like a basement, like an A unit and a B unit. And then, or you get into like ones where they've actually built it to where it's 2 separate units, and they have, this one actually on the left side actually has the same door. So that's kind of an interesting rental. That to me is more like an accessory dwelling, but they're calling it as that. But you can see on this bottom corner right side, you can see that the accessory unit in the basement has its own exit. That's a really important part of this. Okay. All right. And then 2-family dwellings, these are the code requirements, and this is just building code right now. Okay. So first and foremost, the main part to this is that you have to have fire separation. So you have to have more than a 1/2-inch piece of sheetrock. You have to have, in this case, I gave you a detail on a 1-hour assembly for the UL listing. And in this case, it's a layer of 5/8 sheetrock. So all these houses have 1/2-inch sheetrock in them, we're assuming. And they got to come in and they would have to add in at least a 1/2-inch layer on top of that. So every house would have to have a basement ceiling with another layer of sheetrock in it. Or in the case if they have it on a wall-to-wall sharing instead of ceiling to next floor. And then the next part is the requirements of each unit having to have their own method of egress. So your primary dwelling, every one of you might have multiple doors, but your primary egress door on your house is your front door. It's when I do a plan review and review your building permit, when you submit it to build a new home, I have to have one door that meets the 32-inch guide. So that's why you always see, like, generally speaking, the front door is bigger, and you can't egress into a garage. You have to egress out into the open. So think about it just to help you understand just the simple, how big is a gurney? how big is the gurney that the EMS brings into your house? That's one of the big reasons why you have 32 inches. Has nothing to do with wheelchairs, because wheelchairs is actually 36, but we don't have to build a house for wheelchair. That's a whole nother code. But you have to have two separate egress for a twin home or for a two-family dwelling. I don't want to say twin home because that sounds like a duplex. This is not a duplex. It's a two-family dwelling. We'll go back to that real quick, Tom. This is a big one in our city. Egress windows. Right now, most of the windows in this city are in the basement are small, as in like 1 by 2, and they are 7 feet in the air. So you can imagine that's not an egress window. The max height in an egress window is 44 inches. So from floor to window seal is 44 inches. And then the size of the window has to be at least a minimum of 24 inches for the opening part, and then 30 inches wide. So, and to help you understand the intent there, that's so that a fireman can get through that window with his or her tank, be able to get through it. 44 inches is so that a kid can get out of that without having to have a chair. And that's why we have ladders and getting out of window wells if they're over 44 and all that stuff. Huge cost. Sheetrock and that big cost. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars just on those two things.
Concrete cutting.
Yep. And people do it. There's people that have done it in the city. I've had a handful of permits in the past 5 years. Okay. All right. Okay, so smoke detectors have to be interconnected through the whole entire house. They can't just be on each level. They have to, if it goes off upstairs, then it needs to go off in the basement, and likewise flipped. So the whole house needs to go off. And most of the houses in our city right now do not have that unless they're built after about 1995. So older homes didn't have interconnection. They're just gonna go off in one spot, and they're usually not hooked up to the power supply of the house.
But does that disqualify them from,
They-
because it's already existing?
Because we're changing, so a really key component here of the building code is you're changing the use of the house. Cause it was a single family dwelling and now it's a 2-family dwelling, so they have to meet the current code of what it is. So they don't have to necessarily have them interconnected through hardwiring anymore, because nowadays we have the ones that can communicate through Bluetooth technology, which is saving people a lot of effort there to be able to have to do that. Electrical panels, so you have to have means of disconnect in each unit. So they need to have a sub panel and a regular panel in each dwelling part. So they can't have one upstairs and then the people downstairs can't control the power. They really like imagining it, it's very separated. It's like a townhome. And then the last thing is another big cost inhibitor is that you're not allowed to share duct systems, so heating systems. So where's our duct systems generally ran? In the basement, yep, and in the floor. So now all of a sudden, if they have a furnace down in the basement that's running upstairs and downstairs, they're gonna have to isolate it to one level and then put another one in. So this is, you can go one more, I think. Yeah, okay, we'll stop for just a second. So building code standpoint, the cost here, if I was to come into the office right now and ask to do this and it was an allowed thing, they would have to come in, or I would have to come into the city hall and say, okay, I want a building permit to be able to do a 2-family dwelling. And I'm gonna fill out this application, and then I'm gonna go through a code review, and the code official is gonna tell me what I need to do. And then I'm gonna pay for a permit. That's just the building code side. So that would be, I'm completely shooting from the hip on this, but based off of those items and the sizes of the homes, we're talking anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 easy to do this, to get to where it would need to be. So it would be a big commitment on their end to be able to make these like legal two-family dwellings. So a couple points of discussion on this, and I'm sure you all have thought about this already if you read through the staff report at all. But the parking requirements is gonna be a huge deal on something like this. And it's really ironing down what we feel like would make it so if we were gonna do this, it would be acceptable to have enough parking spots on the road, not on the road. So very, yeah, very important side of it is to make sure, you know, do you make it to where they have to have 1.5 cars per bedroom? Or 1.5 car spots per bedroom, or do you make it to where they just have to have 2? You know, these are things that we really need to think about because parking in our city is quite an issue. Zoning compliance. How do we deal with the neighbor that doesn't want it? How do we deal with the lady next door that is completely against her neighbor renting out as a two-family dwelling? How do you control that? She didn't buy her property thinking that was a mixed-use house or a multifamily home. She bought it as thinking it was a single family, and she's a single family neighborhood. How do you control that? We did a little bit of reading back and forth, Tom and I, and one of the ones that stuck out is Provo. Provo's has a code where they make them do a letter to the surrounding properties and get approval. So they write a letter out and say, are you guys okay with this? And the people around there have to accept it. So,
Or not.
Which there's been quite a bit of, if you read into that, and big part was about 3 years ago. There was a lot of back and forth with that because they didn't feel like, you know, getting into property rights and, you know, how can my neighbor control what I do at my home and that kind of thing. You start getting into the legal side of it. So, lot sizes, I think that's going to be really important. That's going to fall in line with parking. Do they have a big enough lot? Let's see. And then the last two are, I don't have a ton of information on this. I think we're going to have to connect with legal a little bit on this, but right now, if someone comes into our city and they want to build a townhome and they build a 5-plex that has 5 different units in it, each one of those units has its own impact fee. So just a general question, is it fair that someone has a single family home that paid for one impact fee years ago, probably didn't even have one years ago, and now they're putting in another unit? Should they have to have an impact fee? Should they be paying for an additional impact to the infrastructure of the city? And then connection fees. You'll notice when I was discussing building code, I never once said anything about separate sewer systems. I never said anything about separate water meters.
I was gonna ask that question.
The expectation on a two-family dwelling is that it's single. This is not a duplex or a townhome. It's a single unit that has 2 different families in it. So we're not gonna have that additional water meter requirement like you would if they were separate parcels and they were trying to sell it. Like, I have one in the city right now, actually, that's trying to make it so that he can sell one side of it and keep the other side, but right now it's just one parcel. And that's a different situation because he's wanting to separate it as 2 different owners, not use it as a rental on both sides. So he has to actually separate utilities. But that's a big part. And Heidi brought that up earlier today from a water standpoint. All of these units that are on here that are approved ones right now currently are paying just a single unit water rate. They're not paying a double rate. So is that fair? You know, we base it off of the per gallon. So, but should there be additional? Is there additional impacts? There's a lot to it. It's quite a web of challenge. But hopefully that kind of helps you understand the differences, and please ask questions if you have any and many.
So is it multiple owners or is there one owner that has multiple properties?
These are considered, what we're discussing now, it would be a one owner home. That's again, not owner occupied, because if it's owner occupied, then it would be an accessory dwelling. And I can't, based off the state laws, I can't come in and make them do all those building code requirements. They can have everything the same.
Yeah.
But as soon as it's not owner occupied and you have a, John downstairs and Rob upstairs, or the other way around, then they have to have separation, but it's still one owner. More of like, imagine it as like an investment property.
Well, I'm meaning the owners of the properties. Is it some of them that are doing this as a business as it is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, most of them. Yep. In fact, we have a few that have multiples. So,
So a question, okay, so the owner occupied is state regulated.
mhm,
We have to allow it.
yep.
Okay. The other way, the two family, what's the state
There's-
say on that?
There's nothing as of right now. There's no.
Nothing as of
it
right
falls- It falls into the building
Building
code,
code?
and now you dip into a zoning code, and if it's allowed in that zone. And right now, as it stands, one single unit is on one single lot. We would have to change something with zoning to be able to allow it.
So as of right now, none of these affect owner occupied. Okay, this is just for business purposes.
this is-
Yep.
Someone's just buying property, I wanna rent both.
Yeah, or I cannot remember her name, it's the sweetest lady, and her dad used to be on city council tons of years ago. She calls me and talks for a long time about it. She moved out of the home and moved across the street when her sister didn't have the house anymore. And she now has up and down rental, and she's been doing it for 30 years. So it's an investment property for her to have that, because that's how her dad had it. But she lived upstairs for a lot of years, and that was technically allowed, I guess. I don't, even still, it really wasn't, but it wasn't really enforced. And now she's not in there, she's across the street, and she has both of them up and down. So now it's illegal.
Always has been illegal,
Yeah,
just like everything else in the city, always has been. illegal.
Yep.
But we never caught it. Another thing on that, you talked about fees, you talked about water fees, talked about impact fees. You talked about one of my pet peeves is property tax. Every one of those rental units or every one of those extra units that somebody's using for business still gets that 55% discount on their property taxes,
yep.
which is
so-
completely unfair.
The list, that's the list that are the legal ones. The county's recognizing these as a duplex or a two unit house. And so they are paying an additional property tax for those because the county's recognizing it. The
Okay.
assessor has assessed it that way.
No, they still get the discount.
Well, yeah, there
But
still
they
is.
still get the
Yep.
55% discount,
Yep.
just as all of us do.
Right.
And I've always said, when I owned a home in St. George, I didn't rent it out, it was just for me and we paid 100% of the assessed value.
Yeah, on like a tourism tax or
Yeah, whatever, I don't know,
Mhm.
but we paid 100%. And you get all these people that buy these homes, rent them out. It's not their primary dwelling,
Mhm.
yet they're getting the discount. It's hurting us, it's hurting the city. We're giving a discount on services.
Yeah,
Shouldn't be doing that. That's something that's got to come to the legislature.
yeah,
It's all these businessmen that are doing that.
yeah, buying them up like crazy.
Line up like crazy and then boy, they get a discount just like all of us on our primary dwellings. Shouldn't be like that.
And again.
Now they're
sorry,
screwing
go
us
ahead.
even worse
Sorry.
because we got water fees, we got impact fees, we got all these other things. To me, this is no brainer. This is such a safety issue, makes these places death traps. You're talking windows size and height of a window. You got fire alarms that don't work. You got outdoor egress you don't have in probably 95% of those
Yeah.
units. You've got separation of utilities where you can't shut down utilities in your little living area. I mean, this is a
Well,
no-brainer. I don't even know why we're talking about it.
And an interesting thing about the electrical side of things, so in the older homes, the building code didn't require you to have a disconnect on the outside of your house until recently. To
Mm.
where a fireman can go to that home. We actually had a fire today. Fire goes to that, this was an apartment, but goes to that apartment today and goes immediately outside and shuts gas off and shuts power off. So that they know when
To
they're
that one
fighting that
unit.
fire, it's off.
To that one little unit.
Yep. That,
Okay.
in that case, but in this case, where most of our houses are on that older code, they don't have a disconnect outside, so they would have, it could be very confusing. And that's it just that one additional part is they're gonna have to bring that electrical system to code.
And just for myself, to be clear, we're not talking about people who are buying property, single home with multiple option, but if they're only renting to a single family,
Mhm.
that is also not our problem. This is just for someone who's buying a single home, which is up and down, and they want a business license to rent both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or, and to go into that a little bit more, it's two different sets of people, or even just person that are unrelated,
Right.
that don't affiliate with each other beyond just waving at each other when they leave the house.
Right, so it's literally just for business.
Yep.
Well, in this case, I think I'm gonna side with Mayor on this one.
It's just, to me, it's dangerous having it owner occupied
Mhm.
and letting your other family members and their family living downstairs. That's dangerous as heck. In my opinion, you got kids that can't get out of that basement, but that's the way that is. But to me, owner occupied is better because at least you have an owner that possibly will take care of the yard, possibly, will possibly shovel the sidewalk,
Yep.
for the kids walking to school, possibly. So at least you have that. And you have somebody who Martin can talk to directly that
Mhm.
owns the property if there is a problem.
Yep.
Right now, Martin's got to call California or call Salt Lake or call someplace else to get a hold of a property owner to mow his damn grass.
Or the property management company.
Yeah, and the property management kind of says, don't, or the owner says, don't call me, call my property manager.
Yeah.
And, do they give a crap? Heavens no.
I mean, that's the challenge, and that's where I think it goes back to that same thing. Is it something that, you can see there's 100+ on here out of how many homes do we have here now? Can't remember the number. It's like 700 units, I think. Total. No. less than
700
that,
units of
no.
what? In the city?
Yeah, single family.
Oh, single family.
So you
got
can see.
like
it's-
2,500.
Good
Yeah.
chunk.
Don't we? Well, no, but you got the 72 that are legal non-conforming.
Yeah,
They're okay,
yep,
right?
yeah. I mean,
Can't really-
I can't go in there and make them. do
You only
anything
got
different.
42. This kind of reminds me of a discussion we had for 6 years that you only had 15 people who wanted something.
Yep.
And we fought for 6 years and made each other mad over, 15 people wanting this thing. We got 40 people wanting this thing that's really pretty dangerous, in my opinion.
Yeah, if done right, but they do it
But-
right, that's.
Well, yeah, if they do it right, give you 50,000, give a contractor $50,000, have him make it right, and you can do it all day long.
But
And that's
But
what's
then you
being,
still got the
and that's what's
parking
being
problem.
considered here,
Yeah.
is should we consider it, if they do it right, that it could be permitted.
But then you still got a parking problem. Then you got to put in extra driveways,
Yep,
So the-
then you-
If someone goes through the process to do it right, which including all the building permit, egress, everything else, process, and adequate parking on what that parameter would look like. If they go through all of that to do an up-down, that provides an option How many would participate in it? I don't know. However, those who choose to, you set up an environment that if they do these things, they could do it safely and they could do it in a way that minimizes the impact to the community with the letters and those approvals. They also would be restricted on how many would go within a certain distance of one another. So right now, we allow short-term rentals in a radius. If you have a short-term rental right here, you cannot have one right here because it's inside that radius. But if you're outside the radius, you can have a short-term rental. So there is a way, as long as, a legal way, as long as they're within a certain zone. The same kind of principles could be approached on this with appropriate steps. One thing that does cross my mind, and I'm not trying to necessarily guide you all to say yes on something, I'm saying that when we say no here on this parameter, it could be however if, and though the cost is significant and the commitment is significant, if they do these things to make them safe, to your point, Mayor, if they do these things to make them safe, we can, with even greater a sense of conscience, say, you may not do this in this environment. We recognize you bought the house thinking you could. You bought this investment property thinking you could, which in reality you cannot. However, if it's important, this is the step, these are the steps you would take to become legal. And that even in that mindset, it almost gives us more strength in our ability to regulate those that we say no to, while you give a certain small parameter for a option if they choose to take that option. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's just kind of a mindset of consideration.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, they have an option to make it legal. It's an expensive option. Then you go back to the other thing though, is that all the neighbors around there, that purchased a single family dwelling and look around and see single family dwellings, it's like, yeah, we're okay with it, but I don't want my neighbor doing it.
Yeah.
I don't want his cars parked over in front of my house all the time, or I don't, right? So then you send out the letters like Provo did, and then you make everybody mad. They're, infringing. So, but honestly, I don't know. So yeah, if they want to spend the 50 grand, 60 grand, I don't know, fix it up, then there's still an issue, in my opinion. It's not what it was intended for, but I don't know, is that not a good enough reason to allow them to make it a business property?
Well, can we rely enough on the impact to the surrounding neighbors? I get what we're saying. I'm in a single family home area. And I'm looking around and I know there's rentals. There's people renting basements and so forth. And I don't know if they're all, as far as I know, they're all owner occupied, but it's not impacting us too much.
Yeah.
And there's two families in there.
Yeah.
However, there is one that is causing a problem. And there's neighbors that are wanting to move now because what's going on.
Yeah.
And they're all related, but
Yeah.
there's multiple families in there.
Yeah.
Parking's an issue, there's cars. And the big problem is they're not taking care of it. If they were taking care of it, the yard's always a compliance issue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think if they were taking care of it, it wouldn't be as bad. You probably know which one I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, and
See,
So-
that's,
so I don't
and that's owner occupied, that we can talk directly to the owner, but
right.
in these business locations, we can't talk.
So what I'm saying,
Can't
there is an
find-
impact to this
There's a
To
huge
the-
impact.
neighbors, but
Yeah.
does that outweigh the giving someone the opportunity to do this if they have the means and the desire to do it?
Have any of them asked what to do to make it to where they could do it?
Yeah, almost a good more than half of these ones that we ended up marking as illegal and not recognized as a two-family or a duplex.
And what was the
They all
input there?
wanted it.
Did you give them some
No,
idea, just,
no, the direction we gave all of them was, you're allowed, we had a discussion a while ago, you're allowed to keep your contract agreement with them until it's over, but don't renew it. But I told every one of them, be on the lookout because we are gonna be discussing this. It's something that we're gonna discuss and decide if there's interest in doing it or not.
has to be rezoned? So we've
Yeah,
gotta go through that process.
I don't think, we don't necessarily have to rezone. You can do like an overlay, just imagine it just like what not our infill, but our short-term rentals. You do it the same way. You treat it, you wouldn't change zoning. You would just change, now you could change your zoning completely. You could do to where you can do two-family units, but I wouldn't recommend that because our zoning is established and it's been established for not a ton of years, but it's been established as those R16, R18 and R110 for a while now. I would recommend if you're going to even consider it going into the world of, let's add an ordinance into the supplementary code section and say these are allowed if you meet these parameters. Guidelines overlay.
I don't know, my feeling is I understand where you're coming from, so we're giving them some slim options, but I feel like when it comes to like someone's investment property, we're making it too complicated. The issues Mayor brought up, they're pretty legit. But that's how I feel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's.
And that's issues, they'd have to do all of those things. They couldn't just do part of it because it is a huge safety thing. I think of when my daughter lived in one of the older homes. And their kids were getting older and they putting the kids in the basement.
Yep.
They got these little casement windows about this big, 7 feet off the ground. It's like, scary. They're not getting out. You know, I mean.
And most people are not really thinking about that when they're in their homes and, but that's the difference between a personal owner, they own their own home, they have their kids down there in comparison to a landlord that should know or shouldn't be putting someone in a dangerous situation that doesn't know.
One thing to take into consideration also is that if we find a way to allow it, if you choose to go that direction, and we allow it, we then take on a responsibility and a liability if we allow something that is not to current code. So everything that Tyler is talking about must be done to protect our liability. Because if we allow someone to use that property in a unsafe environment, then that's on us. So.
Is
Well,
that
what
not
we-
what's happening with the 72 dwellings then?
Well, no, what's happening with the 40? We already know they're illegal
Well,
and we're not doing anything about it. So one burns down and
Are legal non-conforming and these are fun. Like every one of them kind of has a different story as to how it happens. And I wish I could
Yeah.
say how, because I wasn't here long enough. I mean, some of them to the point of, for some reason, like one of them that sticks in my mind very well was a house right on 5,000. I was like, no, that's not, and the lady said, I don't even have a connection in my house. And they put the stairwell in and we have 2 gas meters. And I was like, send me a picture. And she sent me a picture and I was like, someone at some point allowed this. What the code was then, I don't know. I don't know what year it was. I mean, I could try to figure that out, and I don't even really know if it was permitted or not. It would have been, it had to have been permitted to have 2 gas meters. The city would have had to give, the jurisdiction having authority has to give a meter clearance for an additional meter for gas and for power. So the code inspector at that point would have known and would have been signing off on it. That's the challenge of a lot of these. And we used to allow them. We used to have zoning that was allowed, that allowed those, the duplexes and That's why if you drive down the road, you see, pockets where you'll see like a duplex and then you don't see anything single family for 10 houses. And all of a sudden you see a 30-unit apartment house. So just different zones in the past. And that's where you get a lot of these legal nonconformings.
But at least a duplex that was put in 30 years ago should be safe
Should have separation wall.
because it has separation
Built to
walls.
be
It
that
has,
way, yeah.
right, at least those should be safe. These are just coming in and doing them.
Yeah, they weren't built for it. They were built to be a single family
Yeah.
house.
You know, if they kicked people out of their house and the owners kicked people out of their house and they took a year to redo it all, they make it up in a year. and
Yep.
They could charge you could charge $5,000 a month rent on,
Yep.
pay it back, but
And catch 22 hindsight. I would bet you that most of the people didn't think that the basements would have people living in them either in the past when these were built.
oh,
They probably thought they were gonna be a cellar where they stored all their food.
sure.
And then it turned into, it's a full living quarter.
Well, back in the day, whoever thought you'd have 4 kids and every kid had to have a car,
Yep.
Never in the
Yeah.
60s did you think that, right?
I don't know.
It's like, times have changed.
1984, I don't know, maybe.
But times have changed and those houses were not built for,
No,
for today's world and for today's lifestyle. Well, Cheryl,
Comment thought here. So we've been discussing what's about this one, all that we're looking at here. If I understand right, one of the things that you're wanting to know tonight is if we would take action to put this to the planning commission to also just have this presentation and discussion.
yep.
Is
Yeah,
that correct?
I have no intention of bringing an ordinance to anybody at this point because there's a lot of things that need to be discussed before we spend resources having city attorney write an ordinance and all that.
And this proposal that you're bringing to us was initiated because of the low-income housing proposals and looking at different options that we could see within our city.
Yeah, I would say that for sure. I think that fell in line with it, but also.
And as a result of our survey.
Yep, that's the big part. And if you look at, what we went over at the retreat, like the important side of this is safety. It would be very easy for me to just turn a blind eye to it, but it makes me I don't feel right about it when I'm seeing situations where people are put into places that they shouldn't be and they don't know any better. They're just trying to afford their house and they're trying to afford their rental and the basement, and that's what they can afford. They can afford a $400 a month payment. And that's great. And that's fantastic. I love the idea. I love multiple units and making units smaller so people can afford them. But I don't like when they're not safe and when they're not done right. That's because people don't know better. If they knew better, I wouldn't be out there pushing codes and saying that window is not egress. It's not safe. I don't have to educate you on why it's unsafe, but I always do. I end up having to tell everyone when I call it out why it's not safe. So, and just, that's what we do every day. So, I think it falls in line with helping us, within the moderate and just the housing crisis in general. But it's gotta be done right. It's because it can turn into a lot of trouble quickly if it's not.
I could see the value of including additional thoughts into this with bringing the planning commission on board with at least having them hearing the presentation, having these considerations and having additional contact with members of our community that would be impacted by this. And with the planning commission looking at it as well, I could see it as a benefit to us that we would have additional input.
How many years have we listened to people in the audience? Have we taken phone calls that said, my neighbors just, they're renting, this guy's just renting this whole house out. I think it's been going on for years and years and years. All I got around my neighborhood is rentals, rentals, rentals. Now it's all I got around my, guy doesn't even live here and it's a rental. And they're renting the basement, they're renting this, and it just came to a head.
Yep.
Last year, it just boom. With all the discussion, and I thought, well, finally, we're looking at that and, should have looked at it, I guess, when it started, but it just kind of snuck up on us, all of a sudden, hey, that's, money gets tight. You need places for people to live. And I mean, yeah, if they were cheap, I'd understand, but guys are, you got 2,500 up and 2,500 down. If they're doing it for 800 up and 800 down or 600 up, I'd feel good about it.
Yep.
But they're not. Landlords are not doing that. I promise you. It's, they're making some money.
Well, and this is something really interesting that this happened today, but fire that we had over here at the apartments,
Mhm.
that set off one sprinkler head in the top story. And our fire chief went over there and they have sheets hanging down to make separate rooms in there. So in a 2-bedroom apartment, they have 7 people in it. And Chief Peterson didn't know if they were related or not, but he's definitely, being assuming a little bit that they aren't. But he was like, yeah, and then you go down to the next one and they have the same thing. But the challenge there is like, and I know, like, we have a lot of parking issues over here. There's a reason why they all park across the street where the future storage building's gonna be.
Yeah, that's true.
You
There's
know.
7 in one apartment.
That's, so potentially, most likely we have 7 extra vehicles. And that is, can we control that? The answer is no. Like, you can do your annual inspections, you can do things to try to mitigate it. We don't have the manpower to do it. And so implementing a code and making people fall in line with what can be allowed is helpful for a code official, because I can give someone direction on it. That's my take on it. I think it's a problem. I think we have more of a problem in our state than people even realize I have some real estate investment stuff. I don't do anything like this, but I follow guys that do this where they call it house hacking, where they're making, like, someone will come in and buy a big house and they'll actually like split it into multiple units so that they're cash flowing their property. And it's a real thing, like, it's happening in our state all over the place. And that's the focus. But you take a $800,000 home, and which is becoming like an average price now, and the interest rate's at 6.5%, 7%. That's $6,000 a month if they don't put any money down. Who can afford that? I mean, that's a lot of money a year. So you can see why there's such a problem for it. And then I think it's a matter of really thinking through. And I like what you're saying with this, with talking with planning commission and having an open discussion with it, because I think we can get ahead of the horse a little, or is that how you say that? But kind of try to get ahead of what is already here and try to help people to be able to do it, but to fall into the right guidelines of doing it. There's not a lot of cities that do it in our state. Not a lot of them allow it. And I can tell you one of them that I researched a lot was Moab. Moab allows it. Why? I think because a lot of those houses there are owner occupied, or they're trying to help have more units down there when it gets busy, when they have the Fat Tire Festival and the mountain bike stuff and all the things that we do in Moab. So I don't know if we're a candidate of that or not. We might be in 10 years when the Olympics here. But
So you're saying Moab,
they
has?
allow 2-family dwellings there.
they do allow it?
Yep. They allow them anywhere. You have to fall into their guideline of the code.
Okay.
Any cities around us that allow this?
I couldn't find anything with South Ogden. I couldn't find, most of the cities have like accessory dwelling where they're owner occupied, and they have a wide array of allowing them to be detached or to have like what we have where it's an internal. But very few cities allow you to have a single family dwelling and turning it into a 2-family unit that was zoned for single family originally. But it's in the code book, so I mean, there's people that do it. It's just, it's not really, it's not very conservative. That's really what it comes down to for what I think it is. And we are a conservative state that have been since the start.
So I think as a council, I don't know. I think the entire council agrees with Z and I don't know, don't you? I don't know. I think it's just so unsafe that it's not even worth talking about. But do you think it should go to the planning commission?
I
Or am I
mean,
misspeaking on the council?
No, I think you're
No, I
right.
Do we?
I think we agree. My question is, does it provide a stronger stance for you to enforce what we currently have to have this changed? Because I think our
if
effort
we-
should be on.
What
If
do
we
we,
open that window, then we're like, well, we have contracts now, they have to, like, just in the name of, we will change in future, that just opens another window.
Yeah.
I just, this, something like this, where it's not owners occupied, I feel like things should be like clear cut.
Yeah, I think our effort should be spent on monitoring what we have and trying to get anything that's illegal taken care of. I agree. Is where I'm kind of falling on this. I think that falls in line with you, that
yeah, but
to make this done, to do it correctly, it's expensive and it's probably a handful of people that would even attempt it.
yeah.
And then you'll have a bunch of them that are going to be on the fringe, thinking that they're in compliance, but they're not, and we're fighting the liability of,
or they just do it,
or they just do it.
which is not, that's very evident.
Which is what's happening with
Yep.
I don't know.
these 40 for some
Yeah.
units.
Plus,
So would it be easier to enforce it as we have it now? Or would it be
yeah.
same as?
I mean, I will tell you this, like, just from an employee standpoint, what when the council makes a decision on something, it's very easy for me to say, I mean, I'm not trying to pass the buck to you by any means, so don't think I'm saying this, but it's very easy for me to say like, no, they're not discussing this. It's not an option. And then I always say, you're welcome to come to public comment and plead your case, but this is on when you put it out there, and we don't have anybody here. So there's not anybody that's knocking our doors down to try to get it. And you know, and there was people that were aware of me having this meeting tonight. I talked to one of them, I don't want to say his name, but about it. And we have an owner that has a lot of them. And he's not here, and I'm sure he knows about it too. So,
This makes it very clear that the council is not interested in sending it to the planning commission. Staff, you know what that means. Enforce the law that we have, you're done. And that's how we can move forward. No problem.
My suggestion.
And to Z's point, I like the fact that it doesn't scramble the egg anymore going forward. Sorry.
Don't bring back other
Funny.
6-year issues.
But it doesn't scramble the decision later on. It just makes it clear, we're not doing this. And we're not taking it to planning commission. We considered it. That helps check a box on moderate income housing. And it also gives us clear direction. If you don't want to send it to planning commission, we don't have to go there.
How can you? All those things I mentioned, how can you even think it's okay? And
but it's not.
Tyler is gonna be thinking it's not okay, no matter what we say, because he's, he knows what's right as a building official.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
And
it's
if we
gonna be
say,
quite an
"Tyler,
extensive permit.
Don't worry about the windows, but, and don't worry about that, but make sure, whatever. No.
Yep.
You're probably gonna say, I don't think I'm gonna do that anymore. Go visit another city, because
I say that every day. Not visiting other cities, just quitting the whole.
just quitting the whole darn thing.
Why did I do this?
Yeah,
You-
no, but I can see how passionate you are about, making sure that all of
It's-
these regulations are followed.
It's a big deal. It really is. It's just,
It is it's a huge deal.
there's a lot of things that happen, and I mean, I have a very you know, it's really important for me to help people understand why. That's the big part for me is, you know, what is the why? Why do we? And I also recognize, like, I'm also very far on the other side of the fence as well, where it's like, okay, we need to figure out how do we avoid this crisis that we're already in, and what can we do to help? And quite frankly, Washington Terrace is not the issue in our state. We're not.
Yeah.
We don't, I mean, even to the point, like where we do have little pockets that we can develop, we're allowing townhomes and mixed use or multifamily.
Right.
So that, don't dwell on the fact that we're not trying to help with the state, because that's really not the issue. The issue is, you know, do we want to allow these as what they are trying to do, or do we just say like the hard no? And I can appreciate your guys' direction on it either way, because it just helps me, and it also helps Heidi, who takes the phone calls, to be able to say like, you know, that's not the route we're going. You're not allowed to do that. And then if they keep doing it, then we can enforce something if we get to that point. It's complaint based, so.
And to speak to the other side, it also makes it really clear, we don't have a lot of extra capacity and people power to add another program. We have limited staffing, limited capacity. This keeps it on the same trail without adding another layer of complexity to what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And as you said, Tyler, we're a very affordable city.
Mhm.
We really are. I mean, we have very few $800,000 homes
Yep.
right now.
Yeah, you have a
I mean, we have
mix,
probably several
sure.
of them, but.
Yep.
But I mean, you know, over 1 million, probably, I don't know. One or two.
More
but,
than you
I mean,
think.
look at the opportunities in other cities.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, it really is not it's not an issue in this town. I obviously am involved in a lot of cities, and there are cities where it's a significant issue, where it's just, and their elected officials don't want anything to do with townhomes. They don't want anything to do with apartments, and that's what they have to have, because all of their houses are over that. What is the moderate number now? Is it 470, I think? So, and I would probably say most of the houses here aren't that.
yeah,
We have a pretty good map of what that looks like
yeah,
that
Yeah, we
Shannon
do.
built for us.
we do.
I didn't bring it in tonight.
Okay, so do you want, well, there's action on here.
Yep.
To allow the allowance of conditional use permits for conversion of single family to multifamily homes.
Yeah,
But disallow conditional use
or to
permits.
just to not continue
Maintain.
discussion of planning commission.
You could,
To support what it
you
is.
we do not recommend taking this to the planning commission. Or we would like to recommend sending it to the planning commission. It could be that simple.
Okay. Council,
I'll make a motion that we elect not to further this discussion by passing it on to planning commission and consider this for our decision at this point.
second. We have a motion, a second, to stop the discussion right here and not to forward it on to the planning commission. All right, we have a motion, a second. Is there any further discussion? Don't go too far there, Tyler. There might be discussion. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Tyler, you can blame us.
That's right.
Well, you explain these, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. I know you will. Item number 8, council communication with staff. Jill, we talk with you?
I just sent something over to the non-emergency thing, driving up on the road. I saw one of the smaller storm drain things that had metal or something sticking
Little
out.
round.
Yeah,
Oh,
in
yeah.
the middle of the road. Anyway, so I took a picture of it and sent it on our non-emergency line, and I'm glad we have that.
Probably a water valve cover
Yeah,
where we have valving in the streets. They're about to
Yeah.
stick around.
Yeah,
just
and
pops
there's
out.
just
Yep.
3 inches of something
Yep, yep.
above it.
That's
Yeah.
sometimes a plow will flip those.
Oh,
And there's a little hole in the asphalt and that'll flip out and then they flip back over and go back in the hole. But thank you. Thanks for reporting that.
Thanks for putting that system in place. I think it's a really great tool for our citizens.
Now, won't she maybe get a reply in the morning? I don't know how that works.
I mean, I got an automated thing as soon as I put it in.
Oh, you did?
but I
Oh,
was
good, because I didn't last time I did.
Yeah, it gives you an automated.
Oh, cool. It's awesome. Well, good. Well, thank you. You're a good concerned citizen. Z, anything for us?
Good.
Cheryl?
Just a shout out to Sierra and staff here at the city. I had a resident that contacted me and said I wanted to, contacted me a couple of weeks ago about concerns of water bill things going on there. And reconnected with me to say thank you, met with Sierra, and that she was so thorough and so kind and so workable with him. They were able to find out the problem with his water situation and came to the realization that he actually did have a leak that they were looking at, and he was able to take care of it. But he said she was fantastic to work with. So shout out to Sierra.
Thank you. We love hearing those and I will pass that on to Cherie and their team. Those are always fun to be able to pass back. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. And as you may know, Sierra has only been here for 6 months, 8 months. She's very new.
He said she
Wow,
was fantastic.
very good. She was trained very well. That's great. Jeff?
I don't think I have anything else.
Michael?
I've had some citizens on 5,100 and 5,000 wondering if, when the school's done, is the school district gonna fix the roads because they're worried the infrastructure underneath and everything is getting damaged from their big trucks.
I don't know. I'll have to check on it.
Okay.
51 and 5 or 51 and 3?
51.5.
Back of the school.
The front and back of the school.
I've noticed a lot of gravel and dirt up there, but I
Right.
hadn't thought about the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay.
5,100, okay, yeah. We can, so 5,100 and 5,000 south on those
Oh.
roadways. Okay,
Oh,
got it.
okay. Yeah.
Cause I was like, where's the crossroad at 5,100 and 5,000?
It's way
not
down there. That's what I-
picturing.
Just the big
That's
truck.
the-
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
I'll check in
Okay.
with Jake. He would be able to tell whether or not that
Yeah.
project.
Keep an eye on that.
Our infrastructure.
Okay, and then if they're gonna repair the potholes, so our city doesn't have to.
Yeah.
And that's all I've got.
Okay, great, thank you. The only thing I have, we talked about earlier, Central Weaver Sewer Improvement District Tour, Friday at 3 o'clock. Meet here at City Hall at 3 o'clock. Z, may be more convenient for you to drive right there. We'll get you an address. Okay. But if you meet here at 3 o'clock, we can carpool down. Do we have a count? Does anybody have a count? I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4,
I'm. bad on
5.
fence.
possibly 6. Anybody going with you? Family?
One probably for
7? 7? Possibly 7 or 8. Okay.
If,
I could be with me.
Oh, 9. I don't know, you going?
I'll be coming.
9.
Yeah, I'll come.
8 or 9?
Where are you going?
No.
God, who's gonna ask all the questions?
Oh, you already did.
Been there, done that.
Okay.
So we're gonna say, if you bring a family member, they're absolutely welcome. We are restricted on no family members that are not an employee to be in the vehicle. So you need to drive on your own.
Oh, okay.
Not to be that guy, but I just became that guy.
Rules, rules, rules.
I know. Liability,
Always.
you know.
You and our
insurance.
building official, you're good.
She loves the kids in Plain City anyways.
Okay, okay,
Okay, so under 10.
great. We gotta
I'll
bring a
contact them.
couple of trucks and we'll be in good
Okay.
shape.
Okay, good. Looking forward to it. It's gonna be probably perfect weather for that. That'd probably be great.
It's the right time of year.
Right time of the year. Yeah. All right, Tom, administration reports?
You know, we're right now is budget X12 and taking care of those details. And really, we're just rolling on that sort of stuff. One little caveat, sometimes we forget about what's going on in court because it's, you know, no seems. What we found is that our prosecutor was needs to review video for whether it's for evidence or whether it's video arraignment or some of those kind of environments where he needs a place that he can work with a computer and with access. Unfortunately, and I guess I didn't really realize this, they've been actually using the court office for some of those video experiences. So when we learned that, we this last week, we ordered and put in soundproofing in the little corner office right over in here, right in this corner, and set up a monitor computer that we actually were resourcing out, and got him set up there and helped with the door sweep and gave him a little more private environment in there. Cut down on the echo, so the sound echo isn't as much. So did a little bit there where he can be in the same environment as a bailiff. And we were going to set him up down the hall, down in one of the old sheriff offices, but we put him over in here. And just a little update from court on some things that we're trying to do there. I realize it's just a small detail, but again, it comes back to those details that are overlapping that we do as a city, whether or not you're in court and you're communicating out, whether or not you're in public works, and you're trying to associate and cooperate with recreation. We kind of talked about that in staff meeting this morning is how we all interlace on different areas with council policy priorities. And that's an important thing that we talk about and we discuss and we try quite diligently to move forward. So honestly, that's unless you have any questions for me, that's all I have for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. Administration reports. Let's see, down to upcoming events. March 27th, Planning Commission meeting. Tyler, Planning Commission meeting on the 27th? No? Okay.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Okay, April 1st, City Council work session at 5, City Council at 6. April 15th, we will have work session at 5 and City Council meeting at 6. And then following that day, League of Cities and Towns Conference, April 16th through 18th. Those that are going, Amy should have probably already taken care of your travel and everything like that. So if she hasn't, get with her. April 24th, tentative Planning Commission meeting. So put those all on your calendar. So, okay. Thank you very much. Tyler, do you want to go to the sewer district for a tour? What? Oh, did you? Okay. Really?
Hold up.
Really? I'll be darned. That's a crappy job, huh? Yeah, it's a crappy job. Okay, well then, never mind. Didn't know that. Sorry, I asked. All right, I have nothing else on tonight's agenda, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.